Jennifer, is this a particularly severe example of short-termism versus long-termism? So Elliott wants value created immediately and can't see the reason for diversifying or all of these acquisitions. Randall Stephenson, on the other hand, is maybe thinking too long-term, trying to become the Amazon of telecom.
I think it lies somewhere in the middle, to be honest, Bonnie. I mean, I think many of the points Elliott made that we'll probably go through, AT&T is already taking on. So, I think there's probably more of a constructive conversation happening between these two parties more than the word activist might lead one to believe.
Exactly. AT&T itself responding, saying that it looks forward to engaging. And obviously, Randall Stephenson has learned over time that it's perhaps better to be pleasant with your activists. At the same time, Elliott is very demanding. It's going to want board seats, it's going to want divestitures, and it's going to want the stock price to go higher pretty quickly. How do you imagine the relations between the two will go?
I do think that Randall Stephenson and his management team are very open-minded people. But again, I think a lot of the points that were made, no more material M&A, continued commitment to the dividend, deleveraging, it is what AT&T has really talked about the last 15 months. So it's not a huge change there. Obviously, part of the letter that Elliott put together also calls into question maybe a change of management. I would not expect the company to comment on that. But I think it is a little bit longer-term view that Elliott's taking. I mean, their view is $60 per share by the end of 2021. So we're still a year and a half in kind of implementing these measures.
Jennifer, I'm not suggesting this is what Elliott wants, but what is the breakup value of AT&T?
Well, I mean, that is the million to multi-billion-dollar question. You can really value different parts of the business. The three logical ones are wireless, wired, and Warner Media. But you then have to question who are the buyers of those assets. Who, like on the wired side, to sell part of their wireline assets, which balance sheet could even sustain that? I don't know if you followed the stock prices of some dedicated wired companies, but they're not pretty, to say is an understatement. So, I'd certainly higher than where the stock is today, but is it $60? Again, you need a buyer for these assets, and I think that's the hard part that AT&T is probably realizing, frankly, because I think a lot of these assets, which they propose to be for sale, have been for sale.